Quick Lessons from Books, Race and Economics by Walter E. Williams. Minimum wage meat. Oh no, we're talking about minimum wage again. Hold on. Walter E. Williams does an awesome job of explaining minimum wage in a way that I've never thought of, and I thought I would share it with you. But before I share, please subscribe, share, like the channel. An American History 1, 2, Civics and Economics curriculum with visual aids designed for learners of all types. Lifelong learners, student learners, you name it. Also a lot of Thomas Sowell content as well. Now, for the people that love minimum wage, that accidentally clicked on this video, they're getting ready to run away, stop. Just give me 2 seconds. 90% of economists agree that minimum wage laws increase unemployment among youth and low-skilled workers. Okay, bye. Go keep loving minimum wage. But as long as you know the truth, as long as you know the facts, 90%, that's a big number. Economists, they kind of know this thing. Minimum wage laws est not good. All right, how does Walter E. Williams explain minimum wage in a way that I've never heard before? Now it seems obvious, but hopefully I'll share this with you, help you understand. A lot of times when you talk about minimum wage, you talk about human beings, and we get in the race, and then we hit a brick wall. So he separates that. Let's talk about meat. Filet mignon versus chuck steak. We're going to use this analogy to understand why minimum wage is bad. Filet mignon is the better cut of meat. Okay, good. Chuck steak is the inferior product. Tastes like eating a boot. Now, people are like, I like chuck steak. All right, well, you like eating old boots. I prefer not to eat old, worn out tires. But hey, you throw some A1 on a tire, maybe it works. So that's filet mignon versus chuck steak. But despite being the inferior product, chuck steak sells more every year. What? It's inferior. It tastes like an old boot that's been at the bottom of the lake, sitting next to a rusty can. It does. But yet, the consumer buys more chuck steak every year than filet mignon. Here's the data, 4% to 2%. And you could actually throw in blade chuck roast too, make it 6% to 2%. What's wrong with people? You're eating old boots. Are you crazy? Or is A1 just that good? Maybe A1's overrated, but here's the story. According to Walter E. Williams, compensating differences. A difference in price because of differences in desirability. Filet mignon is so good and it's so expensive. Chuck steak is inferior. How does it compensate for being less desirable? It comes at a lower price. By offering a lower price for chuck steak, it's able to compete. It compensates for its inadequacy. It compensates for its inferiority, or that it's less desirable. That's how, on an open market, chuck steak can battle out and beat filet mignon, kicking out the champ. So imagine, says Walter E. Williams, you're walking down the aisle, you get to the meat department, and then the chuck steak says to you, I didn't know steak could talk, but if it could talk, it would say this: I don't look as nice as the filet mignon. I'm not as tender and tasty, but I'm not as expensive either. I sell for $4 a pound, and the filet is $9 a pound. Basically, what I am doing is I'm paying you $5. I am compensating for my inferiority. I pay you $5 to keep me, to eat me, to put A1 on me. Lots of A1. And ketchup. You don't put ketchup on a steak. You put ketchup on a chuck steak. Believe me, that's compensating differences. It's compensating for its inferiority. It knows that it has less or is less than the filet mignon, but it knows that it can attract the attention of the consumer by coming in at a lower price. Now, the filet mignon, like, how do I beat this? I gotta sell the mo mignon. I gotta sell mo mignon. How do I compete against the chuck steak? And the chuck steak, don't sing it, bring it. That doesn't really make any sense, but I just wanted to put Scott Hall and the NWO in here. Raise a remote. So the way the filet mignon producers can compete with the chuck steak guys is create a law that's a minimum meat price of $9. So across the board, you go in the store, all meat must be sold for at least $9. So now you're walking through the aisle, you get to the meat department, you see that chuck steak, and it says to you, I don't look as nice as the filet mignon, and I'm not as tender and tasty. And I'm just as expensive. I sell for the same price. No. If I'm spending $9, I'm gonna eat the filet mignon. I'm not gonna eat no boot. So disgusting. Made me throw up in my mouth. I'm not spending $9 on chuck steak, and you won't. You're gonna buy the filet mignon, so the filet mignon purchases will go up. And the chuck steak guys will go out of business. So we raised the minimum wage, we raised the minimum meat price, and the chuck steak people who were doing well were able to compensate for their inferiority. Now that trick's been taken out of their bag. They can no longer compete. This is the demand curve. This is a law of demand. You lower the cost of doing something, the more it will be done. So if you lower the price of chuck steak down to $4, you'll sell more. Whereas if you increase the price, you're going to sell fewer units of chuck steak. This applies to everything. The law of demand applies to everything. As the price goes up, People will buy less. They will produce less of it. As you lower the price, you will produce more of it. You will sell more of it. So we increased the chuck steak price, and what happened? The quantity being sold dropped. Whereas before, when the price was low, the quantity being sold was higher. This is the law of demand. So when there wasn't a minimum meat price of $9, you had $9 filet mignon and you had $4 chuck steak. If you chose the filet mignon and you ignored the price, you paid the cost to discriminate against that chuck steak. You paid a $5 fee. You paid $5 to discriminate against the inferiority. You paid $5 to discriminate against the rough, abrasive, rubbery texture of the chuck steak. You don't like it. You don't like rubbery meat. You don't like rough texture. It doesn't feel good to you. So you got to pay a price to do that discrimination. Whether that discrimination is right or wrong, whether you agree with it, we can say, though, that in your discrimination, you had to pay a price. You were punished by the marketplace. That fine was $5. Now, you get rid of the minimum wage, or you bring the minimum wage in. You bring in the minimum meat price. Now, if you want to discriminate against chuck steak, you want to discriminate against its inferiority, against its inadequacies. If you want to discriminate, your punishment will be $0. No fine, no punishment, discriminate away. I don't like chuck steak. Why don't you like chuck steak? I just don't like it. I was raised not to like chuck steak, so I don't like it. Well, you shouldn't do that. Why? I'm not being punished for it. There is absolutely no punishment in the marketplace. I can get filet mignon at the same price. And so I never have to face this hatred of chuck steak. As rational or irrational, well, in this case, it would be pretty... Let's not go down that route. So either way, discriminating against chuck steak, there's no punishment anymore. Now, Walter Williams stops and says, look, you're probably saying to me that meat and human beings are not comparable. And you are right. Meat and human beings are not the same. But you know what is the same? How about steel balls and human beings? Okay, well, meat and humans aren't the same. Neither are steel metal balls. And you're not helping your cause. Oh, yes, he is. Because steel balls fall at the same rate as human beings, because all those steel balls and human beings are not the same. They both follow the law of gravity. They fall at 32 feet per second, or 9.8 meters per second squared. Human beings, steel balls, not the same. But when they fall at the same speed, because they both follow the law of gravity. So humans and meat, not the same, but they both follow the law of demand. As the price goes down, more of it will be done. And as the price goes up, less of it will be done. So you lower the price of chuck steak, you're going to sell more chuck steak. If you increase the price of chuck steak, fewer purchases of chuck steak. Same thing with low-skilled workers. If you increase the wages of low-skilled workers, fewer will be hired. If you lower the price of lower skilled workers, more of it will be done. More hiring will take place. 90% of economists agree that minimum wage laws increase unemployment of youth and low skilled workers. Fewer low skilled workers are hired. Fewer youth are hired because of minimum wage. Fewer chuck steaks are hired when you raise the minimum meat price. The unskilled worker follows the demand curve just like everything else. If you lower the work, that unskilled worker can now compensate for the difference. I don't have as many skills as the skilled worker, but I can get the job by offering my services at a lower price. That's how they compensate. But when you create a minimum wage law, you take out that compensating difference. You take that tool out of the unskilled worker's tool bag, and they never get hired. When we talk about unskilled wage workers, we're talking about mainly the youth. Everyone agrees with that. They don't have any experience. They have fewer skills. Whereas skilled workers, often 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, they've been 30 years in whatever industry, they've developed skills. So that is the easy one. The one that a lot of people struggle with is the other idea, and this is pretty much factual, that low-skilled workers tend to be minorities. Why is that? How did we get there? That's for another video, but we know where we are. We know that for the most part, unskilled workers, when we're talking about them, and we're talking about them being hurt by minimum wage, we're talking about the minimum wage law. When economists say that 90% of economists say that the minimum wage law hurts youth and unskilled workers. They're saying minorities. So, taking that idea, let's move on. Let's imagine that a racist is running the factory, they're running the firm, and he has the choice. Do I hire the $9 an hour worker or do I hire the minority for a cheaper price? Well, we know what the racist is going to do. The racist is going to pay the premium price and take the white worker. Now, what if down the road their competitor may be racist, but they're just a little less racist? Maybe they're a little less racist. Maybe they're not racist at all, whatever. But they understand rule number one is maximizing profit. Over here, the guy's like, rule number one is being racist. Then we try to make money. Okay, let's see how that works out for you. Over here, whether they're racist or not, they realize that maximizing profit is more important. And so they hire the unskilled worker at a lower price. The price to discriminate is $5. If you want to be a racist, you will be punished. You're forced to pay $5 as the cost of discriminating. You paid more when you could have got a worker for less. There is a punishment. The free market, without laws, without government intervention, punishes discrimination based on race. It punishes racism. The cost to do this is $5. Let's go a step further. So the racist firm pays $9 an hour. The less racist, or maybe not racist at all, firm pays $4 an hour. By paying your workers less, by lowering wages, they now can maximize profits. They can probably lower the cost to sell their goods so that they will have a competitive advantage over company A. They can lower the cost of the goods. Maybe with their savings here, they expand the firm, they increase their output. By increasing their output, they're also able to lower the costs. Any way you look at it, this firm has a major advantage. Even though the workers are low skilled, over time, the money that they save, that $5 that company B is saving, they can take that $5, maybe just use $1 of it to invest in the training. And so that they're not as underskilled as once were. Either way, huge competitive advantage for company B, and what happens is obvious. Company A, by choosing to be racist, by choosing to discriminate, will ultimately go out of business because they can't compete. Boom, gone. So there it is. We don't need a minimum wage. We don't need government intervention. The market favors equality and not discriminating based on race. So let's throw in the minimum wage law now. Let's do this magical minimum wage is good. Yeah, well, let's see exactly what happens. You bring in the minimum wage law. It's now $9. Does the racist hire the white guy, or does the racist hire the minority worker at $9 an hour? Like before, at least the racist is like, oh, it might hurt me a little bit. Now it's like, yep, be racist. Of course he's going to hire this guy. Of course. And the cost of discriminating, zero. When the government intervenes and creates a minimum wage price, now there's no punishment. The market does not punish racism. And then you look over here, and this guy's going to have to pay $9 for a $4 an hour worker. He's going to overpay. And so maybe, remember we talked about training, so he's going to pay $9, and he has to put even more money into training the unskilled worker, so he's less likely to hire the unskilled minority worker. He's more than likely just going to pay the $9 as well. And in the end, there's no competitive advantage over here, so the racist is going to continue to be in business. He's no longer at a disadvantage because the government got involved and passed a minimum wage law. Let's get rid of the minimum wage law again. Let's run another theoretical design. Let's say that the racist says, you know what? I'm a racist, he says, but he still needs to do the best or be the best businessman. And so he hires the minority. Now, as he hires more workers that are minorities, and the minority workers are in his factory doing his work, and he becomes dependent on them, and they, in a way, become dependent on him for their paycheck, they build a relationship, they build a bond, and they're at least around each other. Ignorance leads to racism in most cases. A lot of reasons why you're Ku Klux Klan member or you're extreme racist, because they're not around minorities. They don't have a relationship with minorities. They know nothing of them, and so they hate them. But if they become more exposed, they interact, you may not end racism in this scenario, but you're more likely to move closer to equality. You're moving closer to a world where there isn't racism, where racists are working together with minorities, and they're spending time together, building bonds, starting to see each other as human beings. Before, when we didn't have a minimum wage, he was just hiring the white people, always around white people, and the racism just grew. You get rid of a minimum wage, you give them the opportunity to hire someone that's a minority, and maybe take a step towards a better society. Here's another situation. Get rid of the minimum wage. It's gone. $9 to $4. We saw this play out. Lower the prices, runs the races out of business. Now, so you're lowering the wages. That allows him to maximize profit. Now, the racist couldn't see it because he was racist, but other investors see what happens. Other investors see what, oh, in this sector of the economy, I can hire people at lower wages and I can earn a big profit. Well, I'm going to get into that industry. So you introduce a new company. A new company says, wow, I think I can make money doing this low wage thing. Well, now he wants to hire the minority worker, but he has to hire him away from firm B. So in order for firm C to hire the minority worker, he's going to have to offer a higher price. And now firm B is going to have to hire a higher price to compete with firm C. And so look at what we've done. So you get rid of the minimum wage. A, the racist is gone. B, more minorities are being hired. C, we're increasing wages. It's just like, it's too easy to understand this. Minimum wage means unemployment and lower wages for, well, you can make an argument about that, but it definitely means higher unemployment, and it definitely favors discrimination. You get rid of minimum wage, employment increases, as we see wages increase, and 3, the racist is punished for discriminating. Quick lessons from books, minimum wage, Walter E. Williams, rest in peace. I wish that I would have read more Walter E. Williams sooner, but guess what? That's not going to stop me moving forward. I will try to get you some more Walter E. Williams content coming forward. Keep saying forward. Subscribe, share, like the videos. In American History 1 curriculum with visual aids. In American History 2 curriculum with visual aids. Civics and economics with visual aids. Trying to help learners of all backgrounds and all levels to understand some of these content and concepts and see it from the point of view that you may not always get. So thanks for bearing with me for another minimum wage video.